Teased to us all the way back in version 1.0, Camellya has been one of the most anticipated characters in Wuthering Waves due to no small amount of tactical suggestive marketing. It's clear what kind of personality they were going for because it always seems to work. So far, the pattern of 5 stars over the last couple versions alternated between a damage dealer and a support. Seeing as Shorekeeper is a healer, Camellya is going to be an attacker. By this point, Wuwa's metagame is developing steadily, with the greater theory crafting community having a better grasp on the real standing of each character. While I still think we could benefit from more nuance in team building, there are finally enough characters to where players can comfortably push towards a 30-30 clear in Tower of Adversity. But we're still missing a few things. At the moment, we don't have a 5-star Havoc and Glacial attacker not part of the standard roster. Qian is Arrow, Shangli is Electro, Changli is Fusion, and Jinqi is Spectral. Camellya is slated to fit the Havoc element, so for today we'll be breaking down her abilities and gameplay before going over how to build her, the units to synergize with her, and whether you should pull for her or not. While I'm certain most people will be going after her out of a desire to fix her, those of us who are, normal will be evaluating how practical she is to pull for. I mentioned earlier that Kuro was probably going to be working on filling out the roster's elemental coverage, but as of now beyond type matchups, Wuwa's elements are more of an afterthought, taking a backseat for the character's overall playstyle. Qian can be Glacial, Spectral, or Fusion for all the difference it makes right now. The one thing a character's element of choice is good for is attack style and teammate compatibility, which plays a huge part in whether a DPS unit is worth going after. Until we have a broader cast of support and partner characters, even if the main DPS unit is strong, they might not necessarily be worth it if they don't mix and match with at least one other meta character. To find out who Camellya can work with, we need to first locate if she revolves around a type of damage. Empirical data suggests that most units have a penchant for some kind of metric that affects the rest of their kit. Qian's all about heavy attacks, which is why he enjoys the company of Mortifi. Jinqi's all skill damage, hence why she wants to pair with Zhezhe. Shangli is about liberation damage, making him a good fit for Yinlin. Even supports and partner characters have a specific stat they like to go for. Zhezhe is all about basic attacks, Shorekeeper is about energy. What is Camellya's stat of choice? Hers is basic attack damage. Makes sense as that's the only metric we haven't covered yet. I'll be spending a fair length of time explaining Camellya's attack rotation and playstyle since, unlike the DPS units who came before, this goes a bit trickier to understand, so try to keep up. Camellya's skill suspends her on vines in the air called Blossom Mode, where she's unable to move, although she can still dodge. During this time, she gets a modified set of attacks that deal increased damage in a larger area than her normal combos. The animations be kinda freaky though, a lot of fan service here, that's for sure. Something to make note of is that in each of Camellya's basic attack and skill attack rotations, you can hold down your attack key to have her run the animation of one of the attacks a bit longer, the ones that have her spin around like crazy. Notably in Blossom Mode, you can hold down the basic attack key for the entire rotation and deal will play out accordingly, making her somewhat user-friendly for people who just want to turn their brain off and kill everything, though she still has a lot of complexity to her kit. Her skill alone tells you exactly what type of playstyle to expect from Camellya, continuous on-field attacking, with her skill granting her an entire new set of attacks. Unlike other stance or empowered attack modes, Camellya's stance doesn't have a time duration. Rather, it continuously drains stamina while in combat, meaning dodging will come at the expense of her skill duration. Fortunately, it is a short cooldown of only 4 seconds, fairly consistent uptime if you mess up or need to reposition. Also, pay no mind to all the different attack terms you see on screen. They're just individual names for literally every single attack in her kit. Virtually all of Camellya's damage comes in the form of basic attacks. Attacks during Blossom Mode count as basic attacks, while one of her inherent skills converts her heavy attack into basic attack damage as well. The purpose of Camellya's skill attacks is to generate Concerto energy, cause at full Concerto you can recast a skill to initiate her Forte circuit, opening up with a massive explosion in a similar fashion to Changli's that deals damage to all enemies in the area before empowering her attacks to deal bonus damage. How it works is that using any of her attacks at base or during her skill will consume her Forte gauge, and there are 2 ways to charge it up, either using her intro skill or casting her Forte circuit. While not in her Forte circuit, for each attack that consumes Forte, Camellya regenerates both Liberation and Concerto energy at the same time, while gaining a stack of Crimson Bud up to a cap of 10. Casting the Forte circuit, which to repeat becomes available when at full Concerto, will consume all Crimson Buds to gain a buff lasting 15 seconds or after 10 attacks, whichever comes first, causing all of said attacks to deal bonus damage. It grants 50% at base plus an extra 5% per stack of Crimson Bud up to a cap of 100. The power boost acquired through Crimson Buds makes them absolutely worth stacking up for. So to TLDR the entire thing, Camellya wants to generate Crimson Buds and then consume them all with her Forte circuit, which then refreshes the skill to attack again for more damage. In other words, her rotation entails 2 rounds of her skill. Now, when do you use her Liberation? Technically, there's no association between her Liberation and the rest of her kit, as it's just a screen nuke. A very suggestive screen nuke, but ultimately a screen nuke. That being said, Liberations do generate Concerto energy, which in Camellya's case is a core part of her kit. So, taking all this into consideration, Camellya's optimal rotation goes as follows. intro skill to fill up her Forte gauge, then skill to get into her BDSM mode, then skill to get into her aerial attack mode, then go through a full basic attack rotation, which means you want to effectively hold down the left mouse button and let her spin to win. Then here is where you want to use her liberation to get that last bit of concerto energy. Afterwards, press the skill again to activate her Forte circuit and go through another full basic attack rotation. By the end of it, Camellya should have her concerto energy back up for you to swap out to your party members to set up another rotation again. As you can see, it's noticeably more time consuming than most other carries who only cycle through maybe about 15 seconds or so. Camellya's rotation is expected to take anywhere between 18 to 20 seconds, a comparatively longer time. Now, in light of having a really long rotation, they've accounted for that with their other inherent skill, not only gaining bonus havoc damage, but also granting interruption resistance while basic attacking, meaning so long as Camellya doesn't die, you can go through your entire attack rotation without having to worry about disruption of any kind. Given the information I went over, we can now surmise that Camellya is a hypercarry attacker who stays on field for long stretches of time the same way Jian does. There's practically zero opportunity to swap cancel on her, so once you do get the hang of her combo, you can pretty much do it over and over again. She's not mechanically difficult to play like Calcaro per se, just complicated, but there are a few things to consider. Remember how I mentioned at the start of the video that one other factor determining whether you should pull for a character or not is how compatible they are with teammates. That's where Camellya runs into a potential headwind. There isn't really a good partner unit to go along with her at the moment. As a Havoc element basic attacker, the two obvious choices would be Dungeon and Sanhua, whose outros provide bonus Havoc and basic attack damage respectively. However, both outros have a duration of only 14 seconds, meaning Camellya misses out on a team's outro deepens for the tail end of her rotation. Why this could pose a problem is that Camellya's full power is backloaded. The first basic attack rotation of her skill is used to generate Crimson Butt stacks to then open her Forte circuit and repeat the cycle, only stronger. In the time it takes for Camellya to do all that, Sanhua and Dungeon's outros will have exhausted most of their duration. Fortunately, the two busted-ass healers, Farina and Shorekeeper, have outro skills that last for more than enough time to run through Camellya's rotation, even with their partner unit going through theirs, the latter of which in particular also has an extremely generous buff duration on her ultimate. But at the present moment, Camellya doesn't have an ideal partner yet. That's not to say Sanhua and Dungeon are bad, their outros are still spectacular DPS increases to Camellya, but she's the first character with a rotation time exceeding 20 seconds, and we don't have the infrastructure in place to support that. Not yet anyway. Mind you, that's kind of a nitpick. Based on early calculations by theory crafters, Camellya's DPS is still more than competitive with the resources we have now, placing her around the level of Jian, Changli, and Shangli Yao at worst. Not quite as overpowered as Jinqi, but coming damn near close. If we're talking about her viability in the meta, she's every bit as good as the ones who came before, so you can rest assured she's both waifu and meta. Well designed too, I think that's one thing I really appreciate about Wuwa. Their gameplay designs are on point and feel really good to play. Oh, I almost forgot. Her outro skills just damage. Nothing really noteworthy to talk about there. Anyway, let's go through her sequences next before wrapping up with her built-in teams. S1 gives her 28% bonus crit damage for 18 seconds upon using her intro skill. So even Kuro acknowledges her long attack rotation with this kind of duration. In addition, Camellya gains super armor during the activation of her Forte circuit, preventing it from getting staggered out of it by accident. A good quality of life sequence to have, but it's really more of a stepping stone for the real gold mine. S2 increases the Forte circuit explosion by an additional 120%. In other words, it's a 2.2 times multiplier, sending her scaling from 1262% to over 2750, a catastrophic increase in DPS. As you know by now, when it comes to sequences though, they mostly exist to make an already good character even better. It's not like in other games where you're locked out of important quality of life features unless you pay extra, so long as your name's not Lingyang. That being said, if you do decide to go after her C2, the damage increase is quite substantial, nearly a 30% increase from her S1. Not bad at all. S3 grants a 1.5 times multiplier to her liberation and an extra 58% bonus attack while in her Forte circuit mode. A decent boost, but as we've established in past episodes, anything beyond S2 is mostly reserved for whales anyway. S4 is strange though. When casting her intro skill, Camellya gives the entire team 30 seconds of bonus attack damage. Why a hypercarry has a supportive ability, I have no idea. Yes, this does benefit her given she's also a basic attacker, but unless in the future we get a partner character like Jojo who also has basic attack damage oriented gameplay, pulling for 5 copies of Camellya just for this is a hard sell in my opinion. For S5, I feel like I see this on like every single attacker. A big boost to her outro skill damage and a minor boost to her intro skill damage. Now as I recall, Shangli Yao has the same thing for his S5, a big boost in damage to his outro skill. I think Jian has one too. Yeah, he does, what the hell? His S5 is also bonus outro skill damage. I guess that's like the go-to sequence to give for any attacker with a damaging outro skill. Just found that interesting. Lastly, her S6, basically instead of her Forte circuit giving a minimum of 50% bonus damage, it gives a minimum of 200%. Also, she gets an entirely brand new skill that for all intents and purposes is an on-demand cast of her Forte circuit attack that comes with the same benefits as said attack. I neglected to mention that her Forte circuit has a cooldown of 25 seconds before it can be reused again. Camellya's S6 practically removes that by letting you cast it twice for an even longer rotation. This is without question her best sequence, and it should be. You need to pull 7 copies of her. Ultimately, if you're on a tight budget, you can get by with just 1 copy of her, and instead try to go for a signature weapon, which brings me to the builds and teams part. Let's talk weapons. Naturally, your signature weapon's the best one for her. Bonus attack, and when dealing basic attack damage, you get a stacking basic attack damage bonus for 14 seconds. As an alternative, Emerald of Genesis isn't a bad option, and coming alongside Camellya in version 1.4 is a new Somnor Anchor, not only the cutest weapon in the game, but also the best free-to-play option for her, so you're definitely not short of choices in the weapon department. If you have the funds, definitely go for a signature weapon. If you don't and have a spare Emerald of Genesis, then use that. If you have neither, then go for Somnor Anchor. For echoes, Camellya might be the first character in Wuwa who can actually make optimal use of the Lingering Tune set. Because she gets a ton of havoc damage already, and if you have her signature weapon she gets a ton of basic attack damage, you want to prioritize percent attack on her more than basic attack or havoc damage. If you have her signature weapon, go for Lingering Tunes and have both 3 cost echo speed havoc damage. If you don't, then go for havoc set and double havoc damage. People going for higher sequences like 3 or more can try playing for 1 attack and 1 havoc damage, but the differences are marginal. Subset wise, prioritize crit, energy up to about 120-ish, and then percent attack over basic attack damage. For main echo, since you're staring down one of the longest rotations in the game as it is, you'll want a summon echo, not a transformation one. So I would actually advise going for the Roshroom over Dreamless and focusing all your time on Camellya, although if you do cancel Dreamless, it's still good in that regard. Of course, for tunes, go for Mech Abomination. Team-wise, between Verena and Shorekeeper, I'm more on the side of Shorekeeper as she gives bonus crit rate, which is crucial to have on a hybrid carry attacker, and not to mention the fact that all her buffs can last the full duration of Camellya's rotation. In addition, the skill issue Forgiveness on her outro can also be good to prevent you from getting screwed over on the off chance Camellya does get staggered. As for a duo partner, Sanhua and Danjin are both good. I believe Sanhua is ever so slightly better, but realistically whichever you prefer works fine on her. You're only using the second party member for the outro deepen and maybe Impermanent Siren from Moonlit Clouds and nothing else. All your time will be on Camellya anyway. Overall, she's a great character and one that I'm sure most people will be pulling for in light of how many were excited to see her since the start of the game. I just hope they release a partner unit who can support her a bit better, but even with what we have now, she's pretty good. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of Camellya and if you plan to pull for her or not. That's it for today though, so if you enjoyed the video, a like and subscribe would be much appreciated. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at VarsVaram, join my Discord server, and why not check out my video on the best team for every character in Wuwa if you haven't yet. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.